One more time. We back again, family. We got a nice show tonight. I think we're gonna. This one gonna be pretty good. Uh-oh, I went out. Hold on one second. Okay, let's see here. There we go. Okay, sorry about that, family. That light went out. So tonight we got a show. We're gonna talk about blind spots. We all have them. So I just recently had my 50th birthday. And it was pretty cool. We had to readjust and reschedule some things, but we still had a blast. We got together. We couldn't do nothing official. And then I wanted to try to do something this upcoming week, but now we're in an ice storm today, so that's going to further push back what we got going on. So today the show is about blind spots, and we all have them. We all have a blind spot, all of us. So when I say blind spot, what I'm trying to say is things that are clear to some or most people, but it's things that we can't see at all. It's something that we miss often, sometimes or most times, when there are some or many people can see it, but we cannot. So we all have a husband or a wife, a woman or a man in our life. We have business associates. We have people that work. We have family members. We have close friends. We have some from childhood friends up until current today. So when we have those blind spots, we know that there are people in our life. So if you go to your husband or wife, your boyfriend or girlfriend, or somebody in your family, you ask them, what are your blind spots? What are some things that most people know about you that you can't see about yourself? That takes us back to video 132, the last video. Is your filter clean? People can only process you through their filter. But of course, the filter, it extracts what you do not want. So the things that you do not want is what your filter is going to extract. So when you are dealing with a person and you are in your blind spot, okay, or they're in their blind spot, then you have to process that through your filter. So when we're in a situation, we could use something like the Capitol situation at the Capitol building. There were a lot of people down there that were voting for the 45, and they were backing everything that he was doing. So now that you have all those people down there, that was a blind spot because there were many Americans who didn't understand what they didn't understand. That is a huge blind spot. That's the second America. That's the separation of reality. So when I say a blind spot, I use the Capitol building because that will be a huge blind spot for a lot of people because there were people far to the left and far to the right when there was not a lot of middle ground. Okay, there was not a lot of gray area. So that Capitol building situation was a big blind spot. We can go to a situation with our preteens. Let's say if you are a parent, or when you were a preteen yourself, if you are currently a parent, there was a blind spot where we didn't want to listen to our parents because we thought we knew everything that there was to know about life. We knew enough to be dangerous. We're talking about some like say 14 to 25. Okay, that's the age where you know enough, where you are a pre-teen or you are pre-adult, or you're in a young adult, up to 25 years old. So we didn't listen. So how many of us could, if we could press the rewind button, how many of us will go back to 14 and 25 and correct some of those wrongs? How many of us will go and try to shed some light on those blind spots? How many of us will go back and listen to those elders or that teacher? How many of us could go back and change our lives today if we could go back and shed some light on those blind spots? After the preteens, we have things like when you're a preteen, we miss out on the things like our parents told us about sex. Of course, that's natural, but we want to have sex and we think that we can handle this, not knowing that we can get an STD, that the woman could get pregnant and we could bring forth a child. A lot of these things that's going on with these blind spots could be huge and detrimental later on in life. So at 14 and 15, hey, Rue, what's going on? Okay, yeah. So we had somebody, just my daughter says, I had someone to tell me that I can cook. Okay, I'm going to say, wait. Right. So yes, right, Ren. That's definitely a blind spot. Yes, we all have them. But it's funny that you just heard that, Ren, and then that the show is about that tonight because the information comes from you. It comes from them. It comes from a plethora of different people who all give me this information. So we just take what's the common ground and then we discuss it and try to put it into, the video form so we can have a conversation. But yeah, thank you for that, Rian. Thanks. So when we are preteens, we can get things like the STDs, and we could get pregnant, or we could get stuck on a job and not a career, because we could drop out of school thinking that's the best thing to do at that particular time. So that blind spot is your youth. Sometimes you think that you can see the world from through the peephole, but you're really trying to look into a mansion. There are many, many floors, many, many different hidden corridors. There are things up under the house. There are tunnels that you cannot see when you're looking through the peephole. That's a very small amount of visual sight that you will have, a visual availability that you would have when you're looking through that peephole. But that's become your blind spot as a young person or a preteen. So now if we could look at a job, instead of a career, somebody that may drop out of high school because school is not for everybody. But now that we look back on it, if you could press that button, if you could go back to that time machine, I wonder, would you shed some light on that blind spot and maybe do something different? It may not necessarily be going back to school, but I think you probably would have made some different choices that would change your outcome, your situation, and circumstances. A good friend of mine's, we were talking. We talk all the time, right? And we sit down, we having a men's meeting, and we just talking about the things that we went over in our life. And so his plan was to pay off his house, right? So he focused his energy on putting his money into paying his house off. Excuse me. But a lot of his friends, they were buying new cars, they were buying bigger homes, they were taking trips, they were buying nice material items, things, for the wife or maybe their lady, just whatever have you. And so when he finally paid his house off, he was talking to some of his friends. Now, their house notes could be in excess of $2,000, right? So he stayed in his lane. He kept at that mortgage, and he finally paid off his house. And he said, now a lot of his friends are coming back to him. And they said, hey, man, I wish I would have did what you did, because now they got these mortgages. Now they had these car notes and all this cumbersome as far as, being in this COVID environment. So financially, a lot of people are taking a hit. So you get a little strapped, right? So that was his blind spot 10 years ago, okay, 15 years ago. When they were telling him to take the trip, they were telling him to buy the car, they were telling him to upgrade on his house. So he looked like he had a blind spot. But then today, now that we've come down the road, they wish they could press that button. They wish they could go back in time and not do so many cars, or not take so many trips, or not buy such a big house, because now they wish they was house note free just like him. So we wanted to talk about those blind spots. I wanted to make sure that we was going to unpack this and look into it, because we all go through these things. We think we got it. We think we know. We think that we can see it clearly. But when we go through it, that could actually be one of our blind spots. A lot of people, as adults, they approach you and they have an agenda, okay? So if they're your friends, if they're your family, if they're a coworker, there's usually an agenda behind what they're doing. It could be good or it could be bad. But a lot of times people with an agenda, they don't see that the blind spot could be, you could see them coming, and they don't know that you see them. So whatever their agenda is, let's just say that it is of a negative nature. So if it's of a negative nature and you can see this agenda coming your way, the blind spot for them could be, they think that they're putting something over on you, and you could really be spinning the web to set a trap to try to get this individual to keep them from doing whatever they're trying to do to you. The people with the agenda sometimes are in a blind spot, not the person that they're trying to set the trap for, okay? So a blind spot could come from both sides. It could be coming from the person with the agenda, who could, their blind spot could keep them from seeing that the person they're setting the trap for can see them coming clear as day. So now that person with that agenda, they never look at how that's going to impact you. Sometimes their blind spot with their agenda is not motivated against you. Sometimes their blind spot is just to get what they want, and they're blind to the fact that they're being very selfish, and what they're trying to do is going to have a negative impact on you. So sometimes the blind spot can be from the person with the agenda, and it could be imparted negatively on you, but you were never part of the problem or the process at all. It's just that that individual had a blind spot in their agenda, and they didn't see how they was going to influence, impact, or have the outcome was going to be negative to you. So that's another way that we could call that, a blind spot. Another big blind spot that we go through often is like in a corporation. We've seen corporations where they'll hand down this list of rules, this process, this business plan, this mission, right? So they'll sit in a boardroom and they're sitting up and they could be eating really good, drinking really good. They could be in a very comfortable position because they've never done the job, actually the boots on the ground, the day-to-day operations. All they know is the corporate side and the numbers. So when you have these people who are handing down this mission, this agenda, this process, that could be a blind spot for the corporation. Now, if the corporation, the people on the board or the people who make the decision makers have never done the job, the day-to-day operations, that's going to be a disconnect, okay, from up top down to the lower level as far as handing down and implementing those strategies and those duties and tasks. So the blind spot is up here. Okay, they need to come down and talk to the people who actually doing the job so that they can understand that some of that stuff is not feasible, is not possible, nor is it efficient. So if we can get the people up top to get out of that blind spot, out of that blinded area, and come down and talk to the people who are actually having to execute the job based off of that strategy, based off of that process, based off of that mission, then I think we could try to bridge that gap and clear up that blind spot. But that happens in our government, education, and insurance, in every phase of our life. If it's finance, it could be in the bank, wherever have you, because we have those blind spots. Because the lack of communication is usually lost in translation. So a lot of times blind spots can come just from not understanding what the other person is going through or what has to be done after you hand out this mission in this process or you have this agenda. You got the final piece that I would like to leave is, again, we did that. Is your filter clean? Have you checked your filter? A person can only process you through their filter, from their understanding, from what they can comprehend. The level of comprehension and their level of understanding, that's as far as they can go with that conversation or that experience that you're having with them. You can't get mad or upset with a person who has a dirty filter, and you can't get mad and upset with a person who lacks the capacity to understand what you're trying to say, and nor they may not be able to comprehend it. So we want to wrap that up, and this one is about blind spots. Just wanted to put this one out here today. We want y'all to take this. We want you to test this. We want you to try this. Take it to the barbershop or take it to the hair salon. Take it to the job or take it to the church. Remember, you don't have to like it, believe it, or understand it. Sometimes you just have to respect it. This is the Clipperdome Chronicles. Thank you.